In this video we're going to look at the BEDEC Multi Surface Paint. If you ever get tired of looking at your white PVC windows, or indeed if the white PVC windows are looking tired, as this one is, you see it's got scratches, scuffs, still got the original remove after installation protective tape around the frame. Where the miters have been fused together, they're all grubby, they're rough, and some of it is slightly discoloured. Now, one of the issues could be that this tape, remove after installation tape, if you leave that on too long and your window has already been installed, what will happen is when you remove that tape, you'll find that underneath where the tape was is a lot whiter than the rest of it, and this is due to the sun's UV rays have faded the parts of the window frame that has been exposed to the sun compared to the part that's been hidden underneath all that tape. So what we're going to do is, first thing we're going to use contour sanding pads. So you're going to use this one. You cut it down, get your scissors, cut it down. I'm using the very coarse, the green is the most coarse one, and I will rub the window frame completely all the way around. I'm not going to take the glazing units out, simply because I'm using a soft satin black. So if I do get any of the rubber seals around here, you're not really going to notice too much. I don't think I'm going to be that rough that I'll get it on the glazing units. If I do, I can just wipe it off straight away. Keep your baby wipes with you. So tools and equipment for this job will be methylated spirit, soft lint-free cloth for the methylated spirit, put your contour sanding pads, you want your BEDEC Multi Surface Paint, decent paintbrush. Do not use a cheap paintbrush. You want to use one of these ProDeck Trojan brushes, the long bristles, nice and soft, will give you a really nice finish. You want your screwdriver for opening the lid and stirring, and one of these scrapers. So little window scraper. It's actually for cleaning glass, really. So it's got a knife blade inside there. So if there's any really stubborn blemishes on the window, you can just take this off and use the blade to remove those blemishes. Otherwise, leave the plastic on there and you just go around, rub the window, get rid of all, particularly this tape, this protective film. Because it's been on this window in particular for a few years, it becomes all brittle, so you have to really get underneath it. And now there is bits of glue and bits of adhesive and all kinds of stuff all over the window frame. What I'm going to do before I start with the sanding and rubbing it all around the moulding, making sure you get inside these little grooves. Okay, so this is the bull nose profile window frame as opposed to the bevel edge one. So I've got to make sure I push my fingers inside of the pad and kind of try and get the similar shape to the profile of the window. So just run that all over, make sure you get all the corners here, make sure you get in the seam. The finished job with this stuff will all depend on how well you prepare the frame to begin with. So failing to prepare is preparing to fail. I'm sure you've all heard of that before. If you leave any dirt on here, if you leave any surface unscratched, the paint's just not going to stick to it. This paint in particular is brilliant. It's fantastic. I've used it for my windows out on the new part of the house, which I'll show you very shortly. Highly recommend it. It took me ages to find, and lots of research to find, a good quality product with its low volatile organic compounds. It means it's very good for the environment, and it's got a very high degree of elasticity. It will stretch to 400% its original dried finished body, really, shell body. So it's good for PVC, it's good for plastic. Plastic does swell, it does expand and contract with the different temperatures, different weather. So the consequence of that is if you just try applying any normal paint, it will just start bubbling off and peeling off or cracking and flaking. This doesn't, it stays together and it stretches with the plastic, or it shrinks with the plastic. So yeah, highly recommend it. It's masonry, tiles, plaster, metal, fiberglass, wood, melamine, plastics, radiators, MDF and lead. So I painted 3 of my windows in July of this year. We're now in at the end of October. So I'll take the camera around there now and you can have a look, see what you think. So these are the 3 dormer windows I painted in July with the BEDEC Multi Surface Paint. They were white. They do have the astragal bar in the top sash. I removed the astragal bar before painting these. I did leave the glazing units in though, and it does give like a rosewood satin finish to the paint. I think they go really well with the lead dormered construction cladding. Hundred times better than the white. I haven't done white everywhere, black everywhere. It's just that the black goes better with the cladding and the materials that I've chosen to use on the dormers. So the dormer's got the lead front, and then I've got slated cheeks on the dormers there. So we're going to go back inside now. No matter what you're doing, whether it's the surface preparation with the coarse sanding pad or using the meth, you go round clockwise, outside edge clockwise, then come into the inside clockwise. Always go clockwise. If you can always remember to do that, everything's clockwise, then you'll know where you're up to. If I start sanding here and over here then up here, I'll probably forget which areas I've done, which areas I haven't done. So if you can stick to a standardized procedure of doing all the outside first, clockwise, and as you're working, you can do the inners last, again clockwise, starting at the top. Okay, so I'm going to finish now using the sanding pad to scratch and prepare the surface ready for taking the multi-surface paint. Before you use your methylated spirits, get your vacuum cleaner. You have to have someone pass you the nozzle out of the window, or just maybe you're on the scaffolding working on the windows. But it's important you use the vacuum cleaner, go over everywhere, open the window. You should have the window open anyway from doing the main window frame. So go around the whole window frame. Also, you will have created a huge dust pile on the windowsill. Remove all the dust off there. You want it nice and clean. The whole working surface clean, your working area clean as well, free of dust completely. So at the moment, this window frame is about 6 years old, and it's looking a lot cleaner and a lot more healthy now than it did 5 minutes ago after using the contour sanding pads. Next thing I'm going to do, get the window open. Now this window, because it's only a single sash, it does open quite well and gives me a lot of access to the frame behind this gap here. For the bigger windows, or for the side opening windows, the ones that open sort of from the centre outwards, as opposed to a top opening window, there is a little clip on the opening hinges that you can press in, and then the window sash will come out a lot more, and it'll enable you to get behind the frame there. So lint-free cloth, methylated spirit on there. Going to do the frame. Make sure you're getting all that gap there where they've fused or welded the extruded PVC together. Make sure you get right in there, because that's where that'll be quite a build-up, a vulnerable area for dust and grease and oil and all the unwanted items that won't be very welcome when you start painting. So I'm going to just go over this for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, then I'll come. Okay, so I do have a new tub of this, but I'm going to use the one I've already opened. So this, there's probably about, well, I haven't opened it, it feels about probably about a quarter in there. The 3 windows I was showing you before, they've all had 2 coats with this stuff, so it just shows how far a 750mm tin does actually go. It's very expensive for the amount you get for your money, really. It was about £20, but it is well worth the money. So, a little tip before you open a tin paint, particularly one that's been closed for a few months: screwdriver, and just scrape, put it on the floor, the tin, and then just scrape around to break up all the dried up paint. And before you open the lid, get your vacuum cleaner and just try and suck all that loose paint away before you open the tin, or else you'll end up with bits in there mixing in your paint. The bits will be on your window and you're going to have to sand and scrape, and that first coat potentially will be pretty much useless. So be careful with getting your bits, any bits in your paint. Scrape, get your vacuum on there before you open the paint. So I've got rid of all the loose bits, give the paint a stir. There's actually more than a quarter of the tin, probably a third of the tin left in there. It does go really well. Very easy to work with. It's water based, low odour, fast drying, which means you can give it 2 coats in the same day. So just remove any excess off that scrape, off that stirrer before we start. And once again, as I said before, I'm going to start, go clockwise. So I'm going to start in this top left corner on the outside frame, the main frame, and be careful with it. Don't get it, it will splash, so you have to be very careful, particularly if you've got fresh render around the outside or brickwork. You don't want to be cleaning it off the brickwork, because it's not always the easiest thing to remove paint. So I'll just go around the frame. Try not to get the seals, try not to get any of the ironmongery on there, any of the hinges or any other window furniture. So the frame's done, first coat anyway. Very important. Another important feature is do not overpaint. So do not go back after you've brought the brush down here, try not to go back over that same bit that you've just painted. It will end up removing the paint off the surface and exposing the white from underneath it. So just let the paint do its thing. It will fill in any ruts that the brush is left at first. If you leave any big gaps, don't worry, you're going to give it a second coat anyway, so you can fill in the gaps then. So the window sash is open now. I'm going to close it a little bit. I don't want the rubber seals to touch the frame, but I want to be able to see where I'm painting, because otherwise it'll leave quite a mess. So the first thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to start at the top here of just the frame of the sash now. I'm just going around the beading, or the external. Okay, I am aware that I have some paint on the front, on this front part of the profile. Don't care about that. I'm just focusing on making sure I do a good job, first of all, of the edge moulding. So as I'm dragging the paint down, I'm trying not to go over paint. It's good to have that's why it's worthwhile paying a bit more for a decent brush. The decent brush will carry a lot more paint, and then it's all about how much pressure you add to the brush as to how much paint comes off. Okay, so made it down now to the first corner. It's quite a cool day today, which means that I will be able to make this journey up to the top here and join without having to wait. When I did the ones outside, because it was July and the weather was quite hot, fairly hot outside, it meant that I couldn't actually join. I couldn't join here. I had to leave a little gap here because the paint had already started setting, and if I was to try and join this loop, it would have gone all bitty, and I would have had to have sanded it down and potentially reapplied the paint. So sometimes better, whether or not you're in a hurry, investing in giving a little bit more time. So the outside is done. Doesn't matter about that. Doesn't matter that you've got it on the front part. Next stage is to do around there clockwise, then the lower one clockwise. So very careful not to hit the glass. If you get the rubber seal, doesn't matter, because it's black, it doesn't matter. If you were using a different colour, then yeah, it would matter. On this occasion I'm using the satin black, so it doesn't matter. So that's the outside moulding and the inner moulding of the profile, both covered now. I'm going to let both sides set, leave the flat part for now, let the edges set for 20 minutes, then I can just fill in the gap there. That's just the first coat. It's gone on really well, really happy with the outcome of that. It won't require any more preparation to that surface once it's done. It does say on the tin, recoat after 4 hours, so I'll try and get the second coat on today. In the meantime, silicone oil, get one of these little screw top. It needs to go, you've got to drip this from the top on that inside seal, the seal that touches the window frame. The seal is attached to the back of this sash, and it goes all the way around the inside leaf of this sash. It's what keeps all the noise and the wind from coming in through that gap there. So if I was to close this sash once the paint's touch dry, the rubber seal will end up sticking to that paint, and then when you come to open the window tomorrow, it's going to rip that paint off. This paint takes at least a month to dry properly before you can before I think you feel comfortable that it's dry. It just says on the tin that it can take a month to fully set, to fully harden. In the meantime, you're going to put a couple of drops at the top here and just help it down. Make sure you cover the seal, help it down there with your finger, work it across the bottom of it here, and again another drop at the top of this side, run it down, add some across the top on the inside there. Make sure there isn't any dry rubber seal touching the inside frame. So I'm going to leave this for 20 minutes now. Let that set. I'm going to come back. I'm just filling this last part. Give it 4 hours, then repeat the whole process again. Although I've just put some silicone oil, I haven't put, although I've just recommended putting the silicone oil on the seal, that doesn't mean you're okay to close the window now. You still have to wait for that 4 hour gap, the time to pass before you can close the window. Okay, well that's it for now. Okay, so it's been half an hour. It's ready for the second part of the first coat. So again, clockwise, start in the top left corner. Try not to let the brush go over the little edge there, the little chamfer where the bull nose starts. Otherwise you'll end up having a few runs. So when you get to this point here, where you can either go left or straight, get some in the gap. Go left, down to this gap, get some in there and in the join, and then by the time you've gone around the rest of the window frame or the edge of the sash, you should be okay without risking the paint setting. So at the moment, obviously it doesn't really look like a nice finish at the moment, but for those who know about working with paint, you'll know that it is actually, considering there's no undercoat involved, there's no primer. I'm sure you'll agree that it does apply very well, exceptionally well, given that that's the first coat. So I'll give that 4 hours to dry. I'll probably just come back tomorrow and finish it and just give it a second coat, and it'll take 20 minutes and that will be it. Make sure that you've got your silicone oil. Don't use silicone spray, it goes everywhere. Don't use silicone grease. Again, it'll go everywhere and it's not as consistent to apply as the silicone oil, so make sure you use the silicone oil. When you close the window, if you don't use silicone oil, when you open the window again after closing it, the rubber seal will stick to the paint and will pull the paint off of the PVC. So that's how you apply multi-surface paint to change the colours and to give your PVC windows a revamp, a new life, a new look, and it works really well. It even gives, with using a decent quality brush, it even gives a nice sort of rosewood effect, a wood grain effect as it were. If you were using gloss, you would have to use an undercoat. It does say this on the tin, but because it's a satin, and even if it was a matte, you'd get away with just doing 2 coats of the top coat and that's it. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you'll subscribe to my videos, and I'll see you again.